Welcome back, TCS viewers. It's Chris Nichols here from the camera store. Now we're looking at the Canon G1X Mark II today. Now when the first Canon G1X came out, we weren't too thrilled about it. It was bulky, it was very slow focusing, and not a great handling camera, although it did deliver excellent image quality with its large sensor. We're now going to take a walk in the park with the G1X Mark II and see if this new version can win us over. Now, one thing the original G1X had going for it was a fairly large sensor. 1.5 inches in size, basically like a micro four thirds sensor. It delivered excellent image quality. Now, on the Mark II, we're actually dropping from 14 megapixels to 13. It's interesting, but we're expecting better high ISO performance. We're going to take a look at that in just a bit. Now, one of the other things that was interesting is the lens. The original lens was a little bit slow, 2.8 to 5.8 as an aperture. The Mark II has now a 24 to 120 range, going from f2 to 3.9. That's a nice jump and a nice increase. Now, if we compare this camera to something like its closest competitor, the Sony RX100 Mark II, for example, we're getting twice the physical sensor size. A lens which has a little bit more zoom range, is essentially as wide open at the wide range and actually faster at the telephoto range. So this camera should deliver very, very good results compared to a camera like that. All right, so now's a good time to compare high ISO performance. So rather than shoot it out here in the bright sun, we're going to use our low light test facility, aka the bathroom at the store. But it works, and you can see here the G1X is doing a pretty good job overall. However, this is one of the issues I have with this camera. First off, it's not the sharpest camera on the planet. The other thing too, it's 13 megapixels, which compared to the competition in the price range is not very much at all. You've got cameras that are going to push 24 or 20 megapixels, and they're going to do a similar or better job in high ISO performance. I mean, here, check this out. This is against the RX100, which is a sensor twice as small physically, and yet I'd say on par or even slightly better at high ISO. Here's something pretty cool. This new lens is nice. I like the extra range, I like the faster aperture, and it also gets us a lot closer focusing. We can get within 5 centimeters here to do great macro, and really, considering the larger size of sensor, that's pretty incredible. So overall, nice quick focusing, does a good job in macro for sure. Now, the original G1X actually had a really bulky brick-like body. It was quite an unattractive camera, handled sluggishly. I really do like the Mark II. The body design is far more simple, it's much smaller and cleaner. I really love the new manual focus dial, the aperture shutter control ring dial. Those are nice features. The grip is small and comfortable. However, if you've got bigger hands, your thumb's going to be all over this touchscreen. You know, there's nowhere to really put a large hand, and you're going to be turning things, setting things. It'll be annoying. Also, this Wi-Fi button on the back, it's too easy to push with your thumb if you're holding the camera with the grip. I just did it right now, and it puts my camera into Wi-Fi. That's an annoying distraction. And this back dial, Canon's not the only one guilty of this, but I hate it. It's hard to turn, and I'm going to be relying on this to change ISO quite a bit. Still, overall, a nice improvement. Why am I not fishing right now, Jordan? I guess because we're doing a camera review. Well, anyways, checking out this here, the new sensor. I've taken a shot of this family up on the hill. We're going to zoom in here right now, and you can see, yeah, it's not super sharp. This is at f8. The lens should be pretty good. Not bad detail, but still, something like a Sony a6000 or other mirrorless cameras will probably give you more detail. So here's a couple things I don't like about the camera. First off, even though we've got such a large body here, it's a very small battery. And that's unfortunate because we've got tons of space. Only gives us about 240 shots on a full charge. Now you compare that against the competition, they're going to usually be pushing 300 to 400 shots. Another thing, this back dial, I've already talked about how I don't like it, but here's another thing. If I push exposure comp, for example, naturally then I'd want to turn this dial. It's right there at my fingertips, but it does nothing. I have to push exposure comp and then use the control dial in the front. Now that's silly because I have to then turn that off before I go back to using it as aperture. I really don't like that. It'd be more ergonomic for me to just be able to turn this dial, my finger's already there. You know what rotating screens are good for? Selfies. Here we go, I'm gonna get Jordan and I on the river. You know, I will say this too, this screen, even in bright sunlight, is not bad. It actually has pretty good contrast. And if you want, through this multifunction hot shoe, we can even get an optional EVF. So a lot of cameras like the RX100 Mark II, they're doing that as well. By the way, again, I hit that Wi-Fi button just like that. It's annoying. Hit the menu, exit. Thank you. Now the G1X was a slow dog of a camera, it just could not keep up. So I'm going to try the continuous fast shooting here and also see if the autofocus can keep up. Now in a camera like this with a moderate size sensor, depth of field's not going to be expansive, but it's not going to be, you know, shallow either. So I'm stopped down to 5.6. That should help me keep things in focus. I'm going to see if this camera can keep up. All right, so we've tried the continuous autofocus. I mean, again, we're getting a fair amount of depth of field here, but frame per second with the servo autofocus on the whole time feels more like 3 frames per second, 2.5. It's not terribly quick, but you know, if you're okay with a fixed targeting point, the camera did a pretty good job. And overall focusing today has been acceptable. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. But here's one of my favorite things about this camera. Probably my favorite thing. First, you take 120mm focal length on the telephoto, you couple that with a 3.9 aperture, which is pretty quick, you give it remarkable close focusing capability, and this camera can actually kill a background like nobody's business. It's very SLR-like. Check that out. Big positive.
All right, let's talk video quality on the G1X. You can see the screen here is letting me selfie shoot it. Now the audio on it is pretty awful and there's no mic input, so I'm going to have to use separate sound sync for it. You can hear the actual audio from the camera here. Yeah, it's not very good, so we're going to stick to the external. Now the quality on it's pretty good. It's using the same processing as all Canon's DSLRs. It's a little bit soft, but it kind of drives me crazy. What Canon does is they take all the manual controls off everything except the DSLRs, and it really forces you, if you want any kind of creative control in video, to buy one of those cameras. Even though actually this is better suited to video recording. It's got the great flip screen, the autofocus works well for video. It just seems like they cripple these devices for no reason to make you get into a DSLR system. I don't know, it kind of drives me crazy. The quality is good on this, but without any manual control, I don't know if I'd ever use it for any serious shooting.
Now when it comes to Wi-Fi on this camera, it actually does a really nice job. I download the app for free, get this all set up, just Wi-Fi. It connected very quickly. I can see my photos, and I do get remote control shooting. I can change zoom range, I can fire the camera, and I can make some adjustments, turn on self-timer. Pretty basic stuff, but it worked well. There was no problems. We don't seem to be having any disconnects, so G1X Wi-Fi works very nicely. So using the G1X Mark II, here's what I think. It's not a perfect camera by any stretch, you know, and although it's vastly improved over the original G1X, that's not saying much because I really didn't like the original G1X. My big problem with the camera is this. We're spending a lot of money, and this gets us into a price point where you get a lot of mirrorless competition. The Alpha A6000, for example, is cheaper than this camera, and you're getting interchangeable lenses, better image quality, faster autofocusing. I mean, why get this thing? On top of that, you take something like an RX100 Mark II, that camera's got a smaller sensor, but image quality is basically comparable, and it's a much smaller package. I just feel like Canon is floating this camera in between, and it really doesn't have a home. It doesn't find a niche. That's my thought on it. I'd say go mirrorless or go smaller and get the same kind of quality. All right, until next time, thanks so much. We'll see you soon.